Hey everyone, welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Wright.
Hey everyone, welcome back to She Burbs Podcast. Today's guest is Terry. Hi Terry.
Hey Brooke, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. I remember I had you on here earlier this year, so it's great to have you back.
Well, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
So Terry is a career coach, a speaker, and an author. So can you tell our listeners what inspired you to become a career coach?
Well, I was a longtime marketer. I worked in marketing for about 30 years, mostly at two large national banks. And along the way in my career, I was always ambitious about wanting to move up. And I, at one point, kind of ran into an obstacle where I really felt like I was ready to move ahead, but I could not figure out how to make that leap to the next level. So I actually hired a career coach, and she just helped me so much to step into my own confidence, to understand what I needed to do to show up and be seen as somebody who is ready for that next level of leadership. And, you know, I think part of it is that sometimes the unwritten rules of what it takes to get ahead, nobody tells you those. Right. And I think it's honestly, I think it's kind of unfair that, maybe some people might have it because like maybe they get the mentoring and coaching from their parents or people in their network. But I really wanted to be somebody that helped people who were smart enough, who had the work ethic, but maybe just didn't have some of the knowledge about how they move up to get that knowledge and to get that confidence, because there are a lot of really great, smart people out there that just don't have that little missing piece of the puzzle. So in 2017, I was just at a point in my career where the company that I worked at, I was there for 12 years, and I felt like I was really outgrowing the opportunities that were available there. And so I did something that I had done actually in the beginning of my career is I just looked at myself and I said, what do I like to do? And what am I good at? And I led marketing for one of the businesses, and I always spent a lot of time mentoring and coaching people on my staff, and I loved doing it. And so I actually decided to go out and get a certification in coaching, and I quit my job and I took the leap out of the big corporate airplane and did the skydive into entrepreneurship. And so here I am. So four years later, more than 4 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's awesome. So do you only help like big companies, or do you help like people like me that's trying to build their podcasts and stuff? Like, do you help us
I work with entrepreneurs, and I work with people in corporate. I would say probably 75% of my work is with people that work for bigger companies, and 25% is with people that are more entrepreneurial.
That's amazing. So do you have like payment plans, or is it just one lump sum that you have to pay?
No, I have payment plans, and I always start off with a free exploratory call with people so that I can understand what their situation is, because not every coach is right for every situation. And so I always want to find out what people are trying to accomplish, so I know whether I can help them, and if so, what's the best way to help them. And then based on what their needs are, I'll propose a particular path. And I offer, people can either pay me up front, they get a little bit of a discount if they pay up front, or they can do like a monthly payment plan.
Oh, nice. So what do you like most about being a career coach?
I just love helping people get over hurdles that they weren't sure how to get past. And I always say that usually when people hire a coach, it's because they have a goal and they've tried everything that they can think of to reach that goal. And a lot of times, they just get frustrated, and sometimes they're like, I just don't know what else to do. And so they'll come to somebody like me and, see if I can help them. And the bottom line is that most people are going through, and myself included, I mean, I work with coaches myself with my own business, but most of us are like going through with blinders on, we don't even realize it. And what a coach does is helps people peel the blinders back so that they can see more options and the opportunities. And so it is so rewarding for me when I start with somebody and they've got a goal, and sometimes they're like almost afraid to say it out loud because they're just afraid that like, oh, if I say, I'm probably not going to get it. If I say it out loud, I'll be embarrassed and all this stuff. But then, so often by the time we finish working together, they have achieved their goal. And that is so satisfying. I mean, it's why I do it. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, a lot of the coaches that I've interviewed, they really, really love coaching. And I think you all do a great job because I feel like coaches are better than therapists, in my opinion.
Well, it's funny because I've gone to therapy, and sometimes, I can remember one time going to my therapist and I was just like talking about the same thing, and I felt like I was getting tired of hearing myself talk about it. And I said, how much longer am I going to talk about this? And she's like, you're going to talk about it as long as you need to. And I was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore, but I also don't want to be in the same place. And I think that the difference between therapy and, one of the big differences between therapy and coaching is that in coaching, we really are trying to help people reach a goal. I'm not trying to diagnose them. I am not trying to, fix something that happened to them when they were a child or anything like that. No, I will tell you, sometimes we do talk about maybe, somebody came from a like really authoritarian upbringing, and that, they get nervous around people who are in power. Well, that can hurt you if you're trying to like move up and your boss is kind of authoritarian or something like that. So sometimes we might go there and be like, okay, that happened to you when you were in second grade. Do you want to keep living with that? Or can we start thinking about this in a different way so that it serves you better right now in the present? But we don't talk about that stuff a lot. We might touch on it, and then we keep focused on the future and like, what do you want in your life now?
Exactly. That's what I think therapists should do, and not go back to the past. I'm like, why am I talking about this over and over again? Like,
yes.
Let's talk about how to change it.
It's funny because a lot of therapists are getting their coaching credentials. When I was going through my coach training program, there were 2 or 3 people that were in the class that were therapists. And I actually have some friends who have their therapy sort of, their therapist license or whatever, and they've gone and gotten a coaching certification. Now they're very separate, and like they might work with coaching clients and therapy clients, but they're separate, and they treat them differently, because there's a certain protocol and rules and ethics and so forth that you use in therapy. And those are different than the ones, there's rules and ethics and all of that in coaching too, but they're different. They're different, and a lot of times, therapists may be dealing with people that are more vulnerable. They may actually have mental illness. And you have, they have to be thoughtful and cautious about how they're working with their clients. Typically in coaching, I have lots of clients who work with therapists too, but when we went through coach training, they really gave us some kind of red flags to look for. And sometimes people might be suicidal or something like that, and in those cases coaching's probably not the right approach, right? Obviously they need somebody who's going to be able to deal with deeper problems than, oh, I can't figure out how to get a raise, or I need help finding my next job. It's much more practical, the things that I work with people on.
Yeah, because the coach that I'm seeing right now, I see 2 coaches, and and he said the same thing. He was like, I don't prescribe medication or anything, and if you need the help, the medical help, because the suicide thoughts, I still had them, but once I started seeing him, like, it just went away. Like, I just see my worth, and I just feel like I'm better than that. Like, I'm just like, no, like, ever since I started talking to him, I'm just like, no, I'm better than that. So
yeah, definitely. Well, so often the thing, when we have like positive things happening in our career or in our life, we naturally just start feeling more positive, right? We feel satisfied. And a lot of times it's, it might just be small things that we're just not aware of that we could do differently. So often we just have habits that we don't even see that are actually standing in the way of us getting to where we want to go, but we have a blind spot there. And, our job as coaches is to hold the mirror up and be like, see what's going on here? What do you want to do differently? You know, I mean, kindly, you know, empathetically and positively, but, you know, to just let people see this is what's going on. Is this what you want to happen?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So, so can you tell our listeners about your books, both of your books, Winning the Game of Work, Career Happiness, and Success on Your Own Terms?
Yeah, I actually only have one book right
Oh,
now, and it is that Winning the Game of Work. I actually am working on a workbook that goes with it, but it's not out yet. I'm sort of in the middle of creating that right now, but it'll be so anyway, Winning the Game of Work. It's, you know, when I was leaving the corporate world, I just started thinking back over all my career, and like I was saying earlier, like all those unwritten rules that I had to learn the hard way. I mean, I stubbed my toe, I fell on my face. I made lots of mistakes in my career, and there were a lot of things that, you know, I was so puzzled by. And then I maybe got lucky that I had some mentors that, you know, kind of pulled back the curtain and were like, this is what's going on here. And I was like, oh, okay, finally, I understand what's going on here. Like work really is kind of like a game, but nobody tells you the rules. And that's what I'm trying to do in this book is share the unwritten rules of the game of work so that we don't have to go in and totally get tackled and beat up, but that we can start, you know, zigging and zagging and you know, getting across the finish line so that we can start winning, so that we can start moving up and making more money and doing the things that we want to do. So told a lot of lessons from, or told a lot of stories from my career, but I also interviewed a lot of people, and I included some of the success stories from people that I've coached as well. Now, you know, they're kind of anonymous. You know, I used, you know, fake names and stuff like that. But there's some people I work with that just had such great success stories that I wanted to share their successes, because sometimes, you know, we can look at things and be like, that's never going to happen for me. But it can happen for anybody. Like if you have a goal and you're willing to, you know, get clear on that goal and really believe in your goal, and then put a roadmap together and start taking action. I have seen miraculous things happen. Things happen super quickly. You know, things come out of left field, you know, that you just never would have guessed. So I think sometimes the universe can be in our favor when we start putting, you know, one foot in front of the other.
Exactly. I agree with you. People don't realize that they hold themselves back. They think it's other people that holds them back.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. It's you that's holding yourself back. So that's why I keep trying to tell people, I'm like, you're holding yourself back from your dreams, your goals, your desires, what you want to do.
Yeah. We all want to protect ourselves. You know, we want to protect ourselves from disappointment. That's totally natural. But, you know, sometimes we'll just like, it's almost like we wrap ourselves up and, you know, it's like we've got bubble wrap on us so thick that we can't even move, you know. And sometimes we just got to put ourselves out there. And yes, sometimes you're going to get hurt. But, you know, if you're playing any game or anything that you want to do, it's like none of us made it through school without getting a bad grade or, you know, maybe getting bullied on the playground or whatever. But it was all part of our goal to graduate from high school or to go to college and graduate or whatever. Like, you know, we all have our times whenever we make mistakes, and we just got to keep getting up and moving towards our goal. And if we're willing to do that, you know, we can make it happen. Or we might even discover something that's even better than what our original goal was. But we got to kind of cut all the bubble wrap off and go out there and do something.
Yes, that's true. Okay, this is a question that I want to ask you. This is the final question. So I don't know if this will relate to what you do as a coach, but what are your techniques for pushing professionals out of their comfort zones? I don't know if that will relate to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about, I mentioned it earlier, holding the mirror up for them, putting things in context. I use a lot of analogies with people, you know, because a lot of times, you know, you can I mean, I'll describe to them like, okay, well, this is what it sounds like is going on right now. Right. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, wow. Like when I describe back to them, just in factual terms, what's going on, they'll be like, wow. Because when they're in the middle of it, they don't really see it. Like that. I mean, that's true for all of us. We're in them because, we're feeling our feelings and we're angry or we're sad or we feel depressed or whatever. And we don't feel like we can do anything about it. But if somebody zooms out and like paints a bigger picture and they're like, well, this person does this, and then you always do this in response, and then that causes this to happen. Is this what you want to happen? And when people start to kind of see their part in the equation, and then we can start saying like, what could you do differently?
Right.
Right. And, sometimes people know the thing they should do, like maybe that they got somebody on their staff that's not performing, who's coming in late or is being disrespectful, but they're just putting up with it, but they don't like it. And I say, well, what would need to happen for this to change? And they'll be like, well, I guess I need to have a conversation with them. And I'll say, well, what's keeping you from having a conversation? Well, it might get ugly or I don't feel comfortable. And so a lot of times I'll be like, well, why don't we just pretend like I'm that person? And you just tell me the thing that you would tell to that person. Because people usually know what they need to do. They just feel uncomfortable doing it. And so I just try to like lower the risk of them taking action. And it's not like, it's not going to be scary when they go by and they're like, hey, could you come to my office? I want to talk to you about something. They're going to feel nervous. They're going to have sweaty palms. But if they practiced it and we've talked about, okay, well, you're going to say this, what are you going to do if they start crying? What are you going to do if they, get upset, right? Like we kind of go through the different scenarios. So when they sit down and do the thing they don't want to do, they've thought through what they can do, right? So it's not so scary. It's like they practiced it. And then most of the time when people do something that they've been scared to do, they come back really energized because they've taken control of something in their own life and they feel like, yeah, I got power. I can make things happen in my own life. And we all have that power. It's just a lot of times we're held back by fear. The fear of the unknown. And I've seen it a lot. This has happened with me a lot where, maybe back when I was in the corporate world, like maybe I had to do a presentation to like a bunch of leaders. And so I would like, practice it a bunch of times and I'd be all nervous. Like, what if they ask me this? What if they ask me that? I would think of all these things that might happen and I would go in and I'd be nervous because I'm like, oh, this might happen. None of those things would happen. None of the things I worried about would happen. But then something weird would happen. Like, the projector would break or somebody would ask me some totally weird question I never even thought of. And I just always dealt with it, right? You don't have any choice but to deal with it in the moment, right? And once I survived it, I was like, why was I so worried? I just did it. And I think if we could do that more, we'd have a lot more energy to like do positive things instead of worrying.
I remember you saying this a few months ago when I had my other job, you said the exact same thing. Now I have a new job and tell me why the same exact thing is happening at this new job. I'm like, man, maybe they need to hire Terry. Because that's exactly what you just said is exactly what's going on at my new job. Like the supervisor, the manager, he's afraid to talk to this girl. She calls herself a supervisor. I don't think she's appropriate enough to be the supervisor.
Yeah.
But I just call her my coworker. But I'm just like, whatever. Like, man. So you're definitely right. And people like they don't know the definitions of things nowadays. So she had called me timid, and I don't think she understands what the definition of timid is, because it's making it sound like I'm scared of her, and I'm like, I'm not scared of you, homegirl. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not scared of you.
Yeah.
But she just doesn't understand how to speak to people. Like, if something messes up, she doesn't know how to say, hey, this is messed up. I'm going to walk you through how to correct it. This is how you fix it. She doesn't do that.
Mhm.
She's like, well, you messed up. I told you this once before.
She's looking to blame. Yeah, she's trying to blame instead of like prepare you for success, which that's what that's what leaders and managers are supposed to do. It's like
Exactly.
prepare you for success, not like figure out who to blame. That's a very negative way of operating.
I'm gonna see if my supervisor can hire you.
I give, you know, free exploratory calls, so I'm happy to jump on a call if there's any interest.
Man, I definitely am. I want to thank you so much, Terry, for coming on my podcast today and chatting with me.
Oh, Brooke, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Terry. Hold on. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to my interview with Terry. If you would like to purchase her book or if you would like to purchase her book or see what kind of coaching she does or go within her coaching, through her coaching, or see how the steps to go through her coaching, I have linked her website within my website along with her bio, and it has all her websites on there and her social media sites and everything that you can see. I hope y'all have a great day, make great choices, and thank you so much for listening. Bye.